We're going to create an atomic bomb of paranormal activity or something when this episode comes out. Hey.
I feel like I'm giving Mr. Rogers for some reason because I have long socks and slippers on. Like it's giving grandpa.
It's giving spooky grandpa.
Yeah. Well, I tried on the top half. Forgot you could see the bottom half in the camera. Hello.
Hello.
This is Two Girls, One Ghost.
Two girls, one ghost. And we are your ghostesses. That is Corinne.
Hello.
And I'm Sabrina. And this is an encounters episode where we read your ghostly paranormal tales back to you and react to them.
Yes. I feel like react, strong word.
Well, react in terms of like, whoa.
Yeah.
Ah.
We have some small comments. I think half the reaction is just what happens after the fact, where it's like when we don't sleep or it's the middle of the night and I'm like, oh my God. I'm thinking about that one thing from that one email that we read earlier that day.
Well, this is a great way for us to begin because we had Campfire Stories the other night.
Mm-hmm.
And one of our listeners told us a story that was every Campfire Stories, I feel like the stories are so entertaining.
Yeah,
and
you
also
snagged the email immediately.
I already had it in my inbox.
I didn't realize we were going to get this turned around so soon.
So soon.
But it's a good one. It's like, if you know you have it and we know what the story is, why sit on it?
So Campfire Stories on October 22nd, our listener, Avril, came on to stage, as we call it, the Zoom stage, and told us a story. And we'll read the story in a second. But in regurgitating and telling us the story, Avril was like, I have tried to email this to you 2 times, and every time I go back to check and see if it's sent, it doesn't exist.
Yes, it's not. There's no proof from Avril's
inbox.
view.
Yeah. And so I was like, hold on, I'm just going to do a quick search in our inbox, and sure enough, it was there, but she had sent it twice. So she had sent it twice.
It did go through.
But
it didn't show on her end, which after you read this story, well, maybe other people will see why, but we were speculating perhaps what she was talking about maybe did not want to encourage her to continue speaking about it and spreading the word of the story.
I saw it. And the other crazy part was not only had Avril actually successfully sent it twice, but not show up on her end, she had first sent it exactly 1 year prior to October 22nd, which was the night of the Campfire Stories. She had originally sent it October 22nd, 2023.
Which is so spooky.
Sometimes when things like that happen, it's like, literally, how could we have figured that out? Like, we didn't plan that. It is so
and also
cosmic.
the fact that, like, you even thought to look up if we had the email. And then noticed it. It was just all of the above.
I'm getting chills thinking about it.
Yeah, when stuff like that happens. Because
it's so cosmically planned.
The first person who won the American Eagle gift card, I messaged her the details and she goes, oh my God, it's my birthday today. I was like, what are the chances out of everyone? It's her. And then
it's her birthday.
Send the details on her birthday. Like, it's weird stuff like that.
Why does this make me want to cry?
Right? It's like everything is just kind of falling.
It's so powerful.
Falling down, and we're being showered
with cosmic plans and beautiful serendipity. It is so cool.
I know. It's awesome.
Okay, but the story is scary.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, don't let us fool you with our excitement about
no
numbers.
So Avril did send it twice. I'm going to read the second one that she sent because she said she probably sent it better the second time.
Okay.
Are you okay?
I'm unsure.
What'd you put in there?
Cold brew, but it tastes different.
Well, I got you a Diet Coke. Also, do you like how if only we were sponsored by Burger King.
Burger King and Harry Styles are today's episode sponsors. Thank you, Harry, for your dimples, and thank you, BK, for
your Diet
having
Coke.
It your way.
Although I will say McDonald's Diet Coke is the best Diet Coke.
I have no argument because I don't think I've consumed enough Diet Coke to know the difference.
I think I would be able to like do a taste test.
We're gonna do that.
The difference.
Patreon.
Okay, let's do it.
I'm never gonna tell you when.
You're just gonna.
It's gonna be like 17 months from now, and you're just gonna show up, and there's gonna be like one of those boxes with straws.
Yeah,
today's the day.
I'm so excited. Okay. Anyway, Avril's story. This is called Listener Story. My ex tried to sacrifice me to the ghost of a paperboy.
Mm-hmm.
Feel free to use the names in this story. I did change the ex's name in here for his privacy. I absolutely love your podcast. I was listening to your most recent episode about how someone sent an email, but they couldn't find it in their sent folder at all, which prompted me to look at my own. And I could not find the email I wrote you guys last year either. I couldn't find it in my drafts. I couldn't even find your email in my contact list. So let's try this again. Before I get into the story, I just want to add that I too am a huge fan of Bigfoot and aliens and always have been. So many times as a child, I would go explore the acreage around my house, which was in Northern California, and our home was surrounded by those beautiful large trees.
Northern California, Bigfoot territory.
Avril says I was like 5 or 6 hunting Bigfoot by myself in my backyard with my dog Heidi.
Oh my God, I love this. Avril, you're so cool.
I don't know where my parents were at this point, but obviously I survived, so I guess no harm, no foul. Okay, to my story. I dated this guy on and off all through high school and after graduation for a couple of years. Since then, we actually had a child together, but are no longer together, and I think this story might give you a clue as to why. My parents absolutely hated him since they raised me in a very religious and sheltered household. I was extremely rebellious, and so this made me cling to him more. My parents and I got along, but at this point, it was exceptionally bad. So I ended up moving out of my house the morning of my 18th birthday, just so that I could continue seeing my boyfriend, which we'll call him Marcus. My parents would buy and flip houses, and one of the houses they had recently acquired was known as the Bradley Estate. It was just down the road from my parents' house. It belonged to the Bradley family, which is where they lived, and owned the sulfur mine.
Oh, isn't this kind of ironic that we know that this is a spooky story and it's like the sulfur and the smell of sulfur and the associations.
Yep, great smells.
Rotten egg farts.
This house was built in the late 1800s and was occupied by the Bradley family until the early 2000s. My parents got the house with the hopes of turning it into a vacation home since it was right on the water. It was really large and in immaculate condition and hadn't changed at all since the last renovation in 1950. At this time, I'm 18 and I'm in between moving out of the house. I shared with roommates into a studio above the hotel that I worked for, which was super haunted, but a story for another time. Since I had like 2 weeks in between those living arrangements, I asked if I could stay at one of those houses they were flipping. The only house available was the Bradley house. So they allowed me to stay in it for those 2 weeks. And since this house has been abandoned for nearly 15 years, it felt empty and creepy. Like I mentioned, my parents did not like Marcus at all. So I had to sneak him into the house since my parents lived down the street from this rental, and they made it very clear to me that they did not want him in the house. I had gone to drop off some of my stuff, and then I called Marcus to beg him to come stay with me because I felt so weird about the house. It felt creepy. It felt like I was being watched, and I felt like at any point in time I would turn around a corner and come face to face with somebody. He thought I was being paranoid per usual, but he did agree to come stay with me. And I'm pretty sure Avril had mentioned that she had been to this house like many times before and it never felt weird.
I remember that too.
All of a sudden, this time, it felt really creepy. He stepped into the Bradley estate and immediately said, "Nope, this place is way too creepy." So I couldn't convince him to come any further into the house than the front room. So we ended up sleeping in the car in the driveway. That's how creepy it was.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which I remember when we were talking about this, I was like, that says a lot that like you can't even suffer through the night.
You literally have to sleep in the driveway.
Right. And like also when you're young and in love or whatever, like you want the opportunity to be alone. And 100%. For them to be like, we can't do this. We have to be in the car.
Yeah. So on night 2, we agreed we could toughen it up and try again. And here's the layout. So basically, there was only one room that was complete. It had a bed and a dresser in it. And my parents had tried very hard to keep that same 1940s, 1920s vibe. During the time the house was built, they had kept all of the bedrooms connected by other doors. So if you entered one door at the end of the hall, you could basically go through all other 5 bedrooms. The bedroom was connected to a bathroom on the left and another bedroom on the right. There was an entrance to the hallway on the middle wall. And there was no air conditioning because it was an old house, and we had to put a box fan in to keep the air flowing since it was the middle of summer. At first, nothing happened. We climbed into bed, and I slept on the side closest to the door because I didn't want to sleep close to the window. Marcus slept on the side facing the window.
It's a tough call. Window or door?
They're both scary.
Which do you choose?
Yeah. As we're drifting off, that door joining the other room started to open. I'd get up, I'd close it, thinking maybe the draft from the hall or from the fan was making it swing open. But it kept opening several times, no matter how many times I made sure it was latched. I'd even pull on the knob after latching it to make sure that it wasn't going to swing open again, But regardless, after a few minutes after laying back down in bed, the door would open again. We were both getting really freaked out at this point, so we decided to turn the fan off and take away any draft in case it was causing this. But we both knew that was not the cause of the door opening.
You got to convince yourself of whatever you need in the moment.
Seriously, whatever gets you through it.
Mm-hmm.
At this point, I was scared shitless. I asked Marcus to help me move the trunk that was at the foot of the bed. It was extremely heavy, and we pushed it against the door to make sure that it didn't swing open. We laid in bed for another hour, talking, too scared to sleep, until we were satisfied that the door was not going to open again. Several hours later, I think you know what time it was. Marcus nudges me out of my deep sleep and asks me to switch sides with him.
Hell no.
I was still groggy and confused, so I didn't ask questions. I just got out of bed, walked, and climbed into his spot. I rolled over onto my side and promptly fell back to sleep with no issues. But I did notice that door was open again. The heavy chest pushed out of the way.
That takes some strength to move a chest of that size.
The next morning we wake up, and I remember that I had been on the other side of the bed when I fell asleep. And then it came back to me that he had asked me to switch sides in the middle of the night. When I asked him about it, he looked at me casually and said, well, I woke up from a really weird dream to a little boy in old-timey clothes standing at my side, on my side of the bed, just staring at me. And when I blinked my eyes, he was still there, and he wouldn't move, wouldn't say anything, just stood about a foot from the bed where my head was, just staring at me.
Yeah, so naturally you wake up your girlfriend and you say, hey, I'm not going to give you any information. Instead? You're groggy and out of it. You probably won't say no. You sleep with the little ghost boy next to you.
Again, Avril and Marcus are no longer together. Marcus said, I didn't think he meant any harm, but it was weird enough that I didn't want to stay next to him, so I asked you to switch places. So he's acknowledging how fucked it was.
Okay, yeah.
But not really acknowledging how fucked
Well,
it
he
was.
should acknowledge that he's the least brave in this situation, too. And that Avril is the
shit.
one who's more... I say this, but like I would also be the one that's like, Brian, wake up.
But you would tell him why.
No.
You wouldn't?
Probably not.
I don't think you would sacrifice Brian. I think you would leave the room.
I think you're right.
I think you'd be like, we have to leave.
Probably.
Yeah.
You're right. In my mind,
you would like, sacrifice
so
me,
scared.
but you wouldn't sacrifice Brian.
Well, okay, because you can hold your own. But like there's like, I think Brian and Noah, like, I don't think they...
No, yeah,
they are so ill-equipped when it comes to taking on the paranormal. They need to be protected, these innocent little worms.
Okay, so Avril says, I'd like to go on record and say, I know, red flag, but he was captain of gaslighting team. So yeah, I stayed with him for like 2 more years. Anyway.
It's okay, we understand.
Been there.
Yeah, done that.
After my, what were you thinking, making me sleep next to the ghost? Are you trying to sacrifice me to the demons of the house rant? I asked him more about the dream. Remember, this is the first time that he had ever been in the house. And it's the very first night he ever even slept in the house. We had never spent time in it together, nothing. So this room that we're staying in is on the opposite end of the kitchen and the laundry room. He had never seen any other part of the house. We truly just walked in, stayed in this one room the entire time.
Dang.
So he starts telling me this story, and he tells me in his dream, a little boy came to our room from the one next to ours, walked to his side of the bed, tapped him gently on the shoulder, and gestured for him to follow him.
I already have goosebumps.
I know. So Marcus gets up out of his bed and follows this little boy all the way down the hallway into the kitchen. The boy doesn't say anything to him, but he lifts a trap door in the kitchen floor, which is hard to see. You wouldn't notice it if you weren't looking for it. And the little boy in the dream walks down the stairs, and Marcus follows. He describes this hidden basement as an exact replica of the main level, except everything's off. He didn't know how to explain it, just said everything felt different, like an upside-down world. He said the rooms were empty, but they were all marked where the rooms above were marked. All the walls were there, but they were bare. The hallway was there, but there was no fancy flooring, no decorations. The lights were dim and yellow. He watched this boy run down the hall, and then, at that point, he woke up to see that same little boy from his dream standing next to him at the side of the bed, staring at him.
It's so freaky. It kind of reminds me of Barbarian in a way. It's like, come here, be summoned.
I know. Down this long, dark corridor that is dirty and
hidden access.
Dark and
no one will suspect that you're still in the house, really. It's like someone just disappears.
And again, reminder, this is the point where he wakes me up and makes me sleep next to this demon child.
That makes it so much worse.
So much worse.
It's one thing to be like, oh my God, there's a little kid and I'm scared. It's a whole nother thing to be like, I had this horrific nightmare and now it's facing me and I sacrifice you instead.
And then continue to acknowledge the fact that he sacrificed her.
Yeah.
And not acknowledge how shitty it is. Okay, so here's the part where I start to panic. My heart sinks lower and lower. My throat closes up. I had spent time as a child exploring this abandoned house, which was now my parents' property and the home we were sleeping in. I already knew exactly what this basement looked like.
Mm-hmm.
It was exactly as Marcus was explaining in his dream. And he had never been there before.
No, he'd only been to one room.
Yeah. So I asked him to describe what this child looked like, and he told me he was wearing one of those funny little hats like you see on those newspaper boys in the old-timey movies. He had overalls or shorts on with suspenders and had these really tall socks, even though he was wearing shorts. I asked him how old he looked, and he said maybe 7 or 9 years old. But the boy looked like he was lacking color, as if he was in a sepia filter. I swear I felt like I was going to throw up because when we got the house, there are only 2 things we found left in the house. In one of the closets, we found an old China doll dressed as a clown.
Ugh.
And in one of the kitchen drawers, we found an old sepia photograph dated 1922. You want to know what the photo was of? A little boy about 9 years old, his hands in his pockets, wearing an old newspaper boy hat, shorts, suspenders, and knee-high socks.
We want to talk about like serendipity and just all these moments. Like, what are the chances you get these, like all of these
There's
things?
no chance. It's not a coincidence. It is literally the ghost visiting Marcus.
I know.
So I got out of the bed and I told him to follow me. I walked him down the hallway into the kitchen and I opened the trap door in the kitchen floor, switched on the light that flickered, and told him to follow me. We went down in the basement.
I just love that this is probably his worst nightmare. Like, Avril's like, oh yeah, he was a gaslighting asshole. We're no longer together. And he probably tells the story of when he had a haunted girlfriend who summoned him into the basement that like a little ghost boy was trying to beckon him to.
I also imagine Marcus was probably like, it was probably just a weird dream and like trying to be tough and macho and like, I don't believe in ghosts. I don't know actually if that's the case, but
Well, it
Avril,
sounds like he very much did believe in ghosts. He was scared.
right.
He was shaking
but
in
there's
his
a lot of
boots,
people who are scared,
shaking in his
who
knee-high
say they don't
socks.
believe in it. And that's why,
That's true.
yeah. Anyway, so I like that Avril's like, no. I'm going to prove to you that your dream was fucking real. Okay, so I take him down in the basement and it's the exact replica of the layout above us. It was unfinished, just drywall and plain floors. There's no way he could have known this. I've never talked about it. I've never told him about the stories of me breaking in the house. Nothing. So I will never forgive him for trying to sacrifice me to the little boy demon ghost in the paperboy outfit. And he never apologized either. Needless to say, we never stayed another night in there together. But plot twist, my parents turned the Bradley estate into a wedding venue. And a month after turning 21, I was getting dressed into my wedding gown in the same room where we had spent that night and seen the scary little ghost boy. I married my now husband, who loves the son that Marcus and I created together as if he is his own. My husband, Jarrett, and I have 3 beautiful kids together, and each of our 3 children have their own spiritual gifts. My oldest happens to have the gift of astral traveling and has had incredibly haunting sleep paralysis. So yes, I probably should have known then at this night where he sacrificed me to the ghost demon that he wasn't the one for me. But at least we got a beautiful gift of an incredible kid and one hell of a scary story. Thanks for reading. I will literally scream, cry, throw up if you read it on the podcast. But either way, I can't wait to see you on the other side where we can be best friends and continue sharing ghost stories or maybe be abducted by aliens together. So I guess
that's a dream for you and Sabrina alone.
Maybe. Anywho, peace out, fellow freaks. And that's from Avril.
Oh, I like that sign off. Peace out, fellow freaks.
Fellow freaks.
Oh my gosh. Here's another thing that we didn't talk about on Campfire Stories, but I'm curious if, because it just does seem like there's so much like darkness and demonic activity. And for this little boy who was photographed and then the photograph being in the house, which feels very like paranormal activity, I'm not sure I think it's a little boy. Especially since he's appearing in sepia, it almost feels like there is this kind of demonic presence that's there and copying the image that he has. But then again,
because the
he's
little
only
boy
scary.
didn't do anything.
You're right. He's only scary to Marcus.
And yes, the thing is scary. There might be other energy there. I mean, this house was built in the 1800s. It's super old. But I'm curious about the photo. I want to know more about the photo.
Right.
Why was it left there? Because there is a chance that it was left there because it is haunted. Who knows?
Yeah.
But like,
does this photo still exist, or did it only
I
exist
know,
in that
where
one
is
moment?
it now?
Did they go back and Avril's like, oh, the photo from the drawer?
We also haven't asked. We know that the wedding venue unfortunately shut down because of COVID, but we didn't ask if her family still owns the house.
Oh,
Because if
no.
Avril's family does, let's go.
Let's go. And Avril's also checking her wedding photos because I said, did you look and capture any little boys in the background of your wedding photos? And she was like, oh my God, I need to go look.
We have a couple in here, and I don't see any ghost boys in the photos. But
this is also a call to action. If you're a photographer, have you ever captured anything weird in a photo shoot?
wait, this is beautiful. Look at this kitchen.
Oh my gosh. I love the the upper and the scalloped.
Yeah.
I wonder if they
Ooh.
kept that.
Now I really want to go.
I know. It looks really pretty. A great place to be wed.
And find ghosts.
And find the ghosts of a little boy.
Why'd you say it like that?
I don't know, but I stopped myself. That's the important part. It felt weird.
It did feel weird. Agreed.
Okay.
Moving on.
Why? Why is this happening to me?
Also, my pants match the chair that I kind of lost
I know.
my legs.
I've been staring at it the whole time. And then I also feel like our chairs unintentionally match the bookshelf. And I'm like, does only one color of green exist out there? Because clearly that's the one color we're buying.
We like it. We're attracted to it.
Okay. Well, this is not from a little boy, but an adult person. The flesh and blood and bones and heartbeats.
I would love an email from a ghost, though. That would be pretty sick.
Yeah, that would be.
Yeah.
Who's to say we don't have one? You know, they could
That's
just
true.
be. Because a ghost is still like, hey, I'm Jessica. We're like, hi, Jessica.
Hi, Jessica.
Like, they're not saying hi. No one emails us, hi, I'm alive.
Actually, Jordan Monsell made a little graphic for us about how Gus had to take over for Sven. Well, I won't be able to find it because it's on Instagram, but we'll put it in the video here. But it's Sven, basically in a hospital. And he's like, you take care of the girls. And
Take care of the girl.
And Gus is like, you got to come back soon.
It's hell over here.
Yeah.
Working with these two. Okay, this is called How I Came to Believe in Ghosts, and the podcast has me panicked that I have been adopted by a ghost family.
That's so sick.
Hello. You can call me Marie. I found your podcast through Morbid, and I've been binging ever since. I'm not really one for most things paranormal. I was raised as an atheist in a family that valued concrete evidence and scientific reasoning, and was much more comfortable with saying, I don't know, than turning to the more unorthodox suggestions. While I'm still largely skeptical of many things, I do believe that personal experience is a valid form of proof, and, unfortunately, for my 16-year-old self in the day, the universe decided to give me some.
I love it. What?
Me
That
too.
excites me.
This story takes place back when I was in high school, and I made the inspired decision over the summer to get a job working at a living history museum. And also, this is about how the museum convinced my skeptic, science-loving self in the existence of ghosts.
Snaps for museum.
Love this. It's like a skeptical person. Yeah. Hello, museum. We
Yeah,
love you,
we see you.
museum.
Museum has entered the chat.
I want when people do the lives and they are like, yeah, they do weird stuff. I want the hearts to come up and bubble up
Ding,
from
ding,
the
ding.
ding, ding, ding.
What are they
Glizzy.
called? Those you showed me that for the first time with Jerry and Sierra.
Yeah.
We streamed it on the TV when we were all
You
together.
didn't know what we were talking
I had
about.
no
and we were
idea.
like, we gotta show you. It was also 1 a.m. and we had a lot of convenience store food.
Yes, we did. It was
point.
a slumber party.
So, important context for this decision. I went to boarding school for high school, and no, not because I got in trouble or anything like that. My mom just traveled a lot for work, a lot. And it made a lot more sense for me to go to boarding school than be stuck alone in the house all the time. And all this to say, I loved being at school and I hated being home during the summer. That first summer was rough. Because of my mom's job, we moved around a lot, and we just moved to this random town in Texas where I knew no one. And I was also 15, so I wasn't driving. And basically, I just spent the entire summer reading or feeling sorry for myself. The next summer, I was committed to making friends, or at the very least, spending some time with people other than my mom when she managed to be in town. And here, I should note, my mom and I have an amazing relationship. She just happens to be a single mom with a demanding job, and I refuse to spend the summers alone at my dad's. So the summer between my junior and senior year, my mom agreed I was allowed to use Uber to get to and from whatever job I managed to get. And my mom thought, oh, I would go work at McDonald's. But I found a job listing for a random ass living history museum 40 minutes from our house, and I thought that this looked like paradise.
It's so funny how like Marie starts this email talking about how they grew up like very scientific, need evidence. But Marie is so clearly one of us. That is inevitable.
You're being called to it.
You have been called to us.
And here you are in our inbox.
Look at it.
Years later. My mom thought that this place looked like a conservative hell. My dumbass 16-year-old lesbian self thought I knew better, and my mom knew that I was going to be far too stubborn for a reason and just let it go. In fairness, she has said that she thought that they would take one look at my short hair and just turn me out the door. But somehow, my short hair and my pride button got me the job. To this day, I don't know why. Because do you know what kind of people work at a tiny living history museum
Old ladies
in Texas that literally only tells the story of their tiny ass town and this one stupidly rich family?
I feel like it's either like old ladies or it's what's his name from Gilmore Girls who runs the whole town.
Oh my gosh, I can't remember his name.
Why am I blanking?
I don't.
It's literally on the tip of my tongue.
He's a
Anyway,
busybody.
He is a busybody.
People with a little too much pride about being from Texas, that's who. Specifically, white people with too much pride. Yeah, so just like Gilmore Girls. I am also white. I just also know that the Civil War was fought because of slavery. And yeah, these people maybe did not.
Yeah.
This is not to say that my coworkers were particularly rude to me. It just meant that they had very different understandings of the world, and this would make things a little bit awkward, particularly when it came to the coworkers that were my age. You see, every summer, the museum hired a bunch of preteens and teenagers to work as living historians. Apart from me, these were largely kids from very religious families who were homeschooled. One of my coworkers genuinely thought my rainbow pin had something to do with the story of Noah. I had to Google what the hell the rainbow had to do with the giant boat story.
I really do. Okay, I understand that like this is probably very difficult to be confronted with a lot of people like this, but I hope that Marie's presence gave them new perspective.
Well, it's for both of them.
Yeah.
It's like you get to see in an entirely different world and understand people a little bit better.
And Marie could, not that it was her job to do it, but I think hopefully provided a larger perspective and more openness to the world.
Yeah. I quickly postponed all previous plans of shaving the side of my head to do that at the beginning of school. My grand attempt to make friends soon became my grand attempt to keep myself and to try to enjoy this bizarre job that I got myself into until the end of summer. This was all a very long way of saying that despite only being 16, I found myself working alone a lot. The museum had 4 houses, each assigned to different generations of the family that owned the ranch until they gave that land to the county in the early 20th century. 2 of them were considered museum homes with actual artifacts from either the family or from this time period. The other 2 homes were playhouses where guests and workers would interact directly with the materials and pretend to live in this time period.
That's so cool.
So cool. Have you seen, there's like clips on TikTok and stuff where people who work at living museums will post
I haven't
from them.
seen this.
Oh, it's so,
I never watch. I'm never on
cool.
TikTok.
This was like 3 years ago that I was on this side of TikTok.
The town that my mom lives in, Washington Crossing, they have the old houses and stuff. And when they do the reenactment of Washington Crossing the Delaware on Christmas, they have the living historians in the houses,
So cool.
in the dresses,
I love
and like
that.
everyone in the uniforms and stuff. It's so cool.
That's also kind of like Gilmore Girls when they reenact that.
Yep, they love the reenactments.
The town.
Why am I blanking on his name? It literally keeps
I can't remember
showing
at
up
all.
in my
And
brain.
My favorite character is Kirk.
Of course.
One of these was from the 1860s. And if you know anything about life on the ranch in the 1860s in Texas, you know why this was a choice. I preferred working in the museum houses where you would simply give tours and tell the stories of the family that lived there. And everyone else liked the playhouses, particularly on bad weather days when the museum houses, which required guests to walk the furthest, usually sat empty most of the day. Now, Texas gets storms in the summer, and bad ones. And these storms will turn the sky swirling and dark, and howling wind will rip through the open landscape, and the rain will soak through your clothes in seconds, even if you're wearing 4 petticoats. This day was one of those days. I had been working there for a few weeks now, and was the only one willing to get into the Victorian period clothing, corset and all, to go to the late 19th century museum house. You weren't allowed to be on your phone, even if you were alone in your house, and needed to be engaged in period-appropriate activity. Now, I had quickly learned how to wrap cloth around my books, as taught to me by my supervisor. Ooh,
That's cool.
that is cool. But sometimes even I got tired of reading. And once again, I had this awful headache, and I always get these headaches in this house. Anyway, that day, I got out my embroidery, one of the skills that the job also taught. Wait, this is so... Should we...
I want this job.
Me too.
I feel like you learn so much.
Can we moonlight doing this one day a week or something? Will they let us?
I don't know that we have time, but maybe one day down the line.
Yeah. Just 45 minutes.
For once.
One time.
Yeah. Okay.
And then we learn how to embroider in that 45 minutes.
In that 45 minutes.
Really good at it.
Or we can have Marie teach us.
Yeah. That's a better idea. I thought it would be funny to have a Ouija board embroidered on a pillow. So yes, on this dark and stormy morning, I sat in the family parlor where no less than 3 family members had their funerals, and I embroidered a fucking Ouija board onto a pillow.
Marie, you are a spooky booch. What are you doing? How could you not?
Science, logic, Ouija board pillows. Now, the parlor gave everyone the creeps. I mean, the whole house gave everyone the creeps.
Yeah.
A ton of people had died in that house. The servants' stairs was far too narrow, and it was steep, and it really wasn't comfortable. The drafty attic always made weird noises. I, however, was a much too sophisticated and mature and scientifically minded 16-year-old to be troubled by such nonsense. Are you getting the idea that I was insufferable yet?
As you were embroidering a Ouija board on a pillow.
I feel like we would have been obsessed with you.
Yes.
I think we are now.
Yeah. It's low-key.
There I sat with my pillow and knowledge that the house was old and the storm outside was loud. Then the lights went off. Because the storm was bad. I'll admit, I did jump. I never liked the dark. But then the lights came back on and I ridiculed myself for my childishness, even as a shiver went up my spine. And when the lights came back on, I felt like the house was almost too quiet, even with the wind. I only had about 2 seconds to consider this before the loudest sound I had ever heard rang throughout the house, and I watched before my eyes as 2 doors to the family parlor slammed shut.
This is out of a movie.
It is. I had never, in my entire time working in this museum, seen those doors close. Minors weren't allowed to come up close, and I didn't even know if they closed them at the end of the day, and they slammed shut then. And from the sound of it, so did every other door in the house.
Oh my God, that's so spooky.
So I did what any other reasonable person would do. I threw my stupid pillow. I hiked up my skirt to my waist, and I sprinted the fuck out of the house, screaming. Because what the fuck? Doors don't just slam shut like that.
I really wish I could go back in time and just witness this happen.
As I ran, I saw that I was right. Every door in the entire house was closed. I didn't even care about the old artifacts. I knocked over the chair. I heard something shatter. I needed out of that house. I struggled to open the front door, the heavy thing sticking stubbornly as I managed to force it open, and then the door, and then down the porch I went. The ground was soft. My boots sank with every step. The bottoms of the white bloomers got heavy with the rainwater and the mud, but I kept going.
Of course.
Clearly, the family did not appreciate my tours of their house, and yes, maybe I was a bit critical of their adult son who liked to play pretend cowboy and gamble the family money, but come on, he was a loser. I ran my ass to the blacksmith that sat on the edge of the Victorian property, past the goddamn family cemetery where Luke worked. And Luke was 18, and he worked as a pretend blacksmith, hammering aluminum to make loud noises, but most importantly, was allowed to drive the golf cart.
Luke,
save us!
The golf cart!
When I ran in screaming my head off about the ghost family who was trying to kill me, Luke was quick to grab the golf cart keys. After all, he did believe that house was haunted. Everyone believed that house was haunted. You had one girl who said that she saw flour tracked up the upstairs floor, a boy who said that he heard a child crying in the pantry. And so, yeah, we got in that golf cart and we headed for the employee barn.
I love that the house was like, Marie, you have to believe. Everyone else believes. I'm going to make you believe.
They were waiting for you to make that Ouija board. The way
it was
of communication
opportunity.
Right? They're like, she's open to it.
Ouija board.
We got to get Marie.
Slam all the doors.
Ready, go! I just picture every single person holding onto the door, and the one ghost is hovering over Marie, being like, "The final stitch, slam!" And they're all going, "Pow!"
Teamwork.
I didn't pay attention to all of the other golf carts that were parked outside of the barn, or the fact that when I ran into the barn, all of my coworkers were there, or that it was lunchtime. I just started screaming my head off about all the doors slamming shut in the old Victorian home. When I finally caught my breath, everyone started laughing. Except for one of my supervisors who was staring behind me looking exasperated beyond belief. That's when I realized Luke was also laughing. The supervisor came up to Luke and smacked him upside the head, asking, Why didn't you tell her? It turns out the old houses don't like to keep their doors open, and that we apparently use electromagnetic locks to keep them shut. And that when the lights went out, it cut the power to the locks long enough for all the doors to release. And that is why it took them a second to close.
Stop.
And why they all slammed shut at the same time.
Oh my gosh.
I did not kill Luke that day, but I did consider it for a good 10 seconds. When he apologized, he said that the timing was just too perfect because he had just been about to go get me to go to lunch anyways. And also, it was just too funny to see the museum skeptic.
Hysterical.
Yeah. Shouting her head off about the ghosts when she didn't even believe in God and spirits in the first place. And looking back, it was a really funny story, and I did get over the embarrassment quickly enough. The thing is, I do still believe in ghosts because of that day.
Oh.
You see, a couple of other girls came back to the house with me after that, and on the way back to the house, I was terrified of something else, the state that I had left it in. As I mentioned earlier, I knocked a bunch of things over in the family parlor. Old, expensive, irreplaceable things. I know I heard something shatter, though I never looked back to see what it was. Except when we got to the house, nothing was out of order.
Oh, I just got chills. Same.
They're looking out for you, Marie. They actually
love
you.
That.
Everything was in its proper place. Nothing was broken.
Oh my gosh.
The chair I was sitting on was perfectly in place with my pillow carefully folded on top.
Stop.
I picked this so long ago. I can't even remember the details of the story.
You're getting
I'm
shocked.
It brought about a whole new wave of laughter that even with how terrified I seemed, I folded my embroidery. Now, maybe I imagined running into the stairs. Maybe I didn't actually hear anything shatter. Maybe my fear just took over. But that pillow, I know that I had thrown that pillow as far away from me as I possibly could. I did not carefully take the time to fold it and then set it up upon my chair.
Right.
The girls left after helping me open all of the doors and make sure that the doors clicked into their locks. I stood in the parlor, staring at the damn chair for God knows how long, petrified and unable to make sense of anything.
I just imagine like really puzzled, kind of like trying to logic out what had happened.
And then the ghost is next to Marie being like, you get it yet? Has it clicked?
I exist?
Yes, I'm here.
Yeah.
Out of nowhere, I felt something cold brush my forehead. And if my eyes had been closed, I could have sworn that it was someone dragging the back of their hands across as if checking for a temperature. Like
you okay?
Yeah. You good, Marie? This is all a lot for you, we know. Like some bad movie, my headache went away almost immediately.
Stop. That is even cooler.
I know. I wish that this was a ghost that I could gift to you when you have headaches.
When I have my period.
Yeah, you're a headache haver.
I'm an ailment haver.
Almost immediately, my headache went away and this feeling of complete calm washed over me. I picked up my embroidery, I sat down, and I moved on to a different project. I stitched a series of little sailboats on a blue apron instead. It was very cute.
Moving on from the Ouija board.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yep. What a hard pivot. My tours were a bit more polite after that. Again, the only one who I was maybe a little bit less respectful about was their son, who very much lived the bachelor playboy lifestyle in the 1860s. And I did grow to love that house very much.
Aww.
I was sad to leave it at the end of the season, knowing that I had no intention of ever going back. Either way, while I'm still skeptical of aliens and cryptids, and I don't really believe in God or gods, I find myself unable to deny that there is something in the idea of human souls, and apparently some of us hang around here after.
Yeah.
Okay, so I wrote this a couple of weeks ago, and I sent it to Morbid on a lam. I edited it for Two Girls, One Ghost. I reread it, and I thought, maybe I shouldn't send it. I have a hard time writing and talking about this experience and things of paranormal nature without coming across as an asshole, and I felt kind of asshole. What do you mean? We are like literally obsessed with you.
Yeah.
Is this creepy? I want to know what you look like.
Send me pictures.
Can you send me pics?
Slide into my DM.
I felt assholey.
Corinne won't sacrifice you to the little ghost boy.
No, I'll protect you. You can sleep by the window. Why am I hitting on Marie?
I don't know.
Gosh. I felt like the assholery had still managed to seep through in a way that I didn't know how to rephrase.
No,
I really did not want to seem it and sound like I was making fun of anyone for what they believe. And I truly maintain that my position is, I don't know, and not, it's not real and people are dumb.
Yeah.
I am simply very skeptical in all areas of my life. And then this bizarre series of events happens.
Oh.
You see, After I did the read through and I decided not to send this email, I was immediately meeting up with some friends for drinks. They drink. I usually get a Coke and maybe a cider that I will half drink for the whole night. We got to the bar and one of my friends, all names changed, Cherry, said, "Does anyone believe in ghosts?" Now, this is a group of graduate students all involved in some sort of science. Even if you believe in that stuff, you do not say it. Hence why I asked you to not use my real name. Marie is not this person's real name. I was a little weirded out because this really came out of nowhere for this group of friends, and I had just rewritten this story, so this was kind of a funny coincidence. Except another one of my friends, Mango, oh, I like these names.
The fruit names.
Said, "I hope not, but I'm starting to think so." And in context, Mango works in forensics and does things like autopsies and burying bodies to study decomposition.
I even more want to be friends with Marie and all of Marie's friends.
Let us into your group.
Yeah. Let's moonlight as Marie's friends for a while.
Yeah.
I'd rather that.
That's really what we're after.
Yeah.
We all stared at her and she just shrugged. Sometimes I'm working on a body and I swear I feel someone looking over my shoulder and it feels different every time. I don't know. It's just a feeling.
Wow.
We moved on and I chalked the conversation up to just being a weird coincidence. Except on the drive home, Mango turned to look back at me when we had stopped at a light and point blank asked me, "Have you had any ghost experiences?" And I blinked and I just shook my head. She gave me this weird look. She shrugged and then she turned back around just in time before the light turned green. On the drive back home, I felt exhausted. I was dying for my bed, which was weird because it was still fairly early. I shrugged it off and I reasoned that I had a busy week, a busy day, the busyness still ahead of me. I just really needed to sleep. By the time I got into my apartment, I had the beginnings of a headache. And I took some leave, I fed my cat, I got into bed, and I slept for 12 hours. I dreamt the entire time about emailing this story.
Shut up.
I have full body chills.
It's also, this is so crazy to me because we literally started this episode talking about how cosmically planned things are and that there is no such thing as coincidence and everything is happening and there's meaning behind it.
Yeah.
And this is proving it again.
Because I've said it already twice that I didn't remember what this email was about because I pulled it like months and months ago.
And what are the chances that we don't talk about what episode or what stories we're picking?
No, never.
I also I actually had Avril's story planned for the next episode, but I just started talking about it. It like, oh, this is so weird.
This is weird. I'm freaked out in a good way.
I know. This episode is so cool.
I can't even breathe right anymore. Gasping for breath.
I've never heard you or seen you do that before.
Something's wrong with me.
No, good vibes only over here. Good things are happening. That was enjoyable.
How? It's a normal breath. I've taken so many of them. You breathe in, you breathe out, but not today.
Today you...
It like wasn't even out of my nose. It was out of the back of my throat.
Okay.
Wow. All right, I slept for 12 hours and I dreamt the entire time about emailing this story.
This is wild.
I woke up. I thought, damn, that was a weird dream. And I realized I had the worst headache, like one that I haven't had in years. And I thought maybe I'm hungover. And then I remembered I only had a soda the night before at the bar. And this was the bar that I go to frequently. After briefly convincing myself that I had meningitis and was actively dying, I took some more leave. I chugged water and I ate some food. It didn't really help, and while it did cross my mind that maybe someone snuck something into my soda the night before, it didn't really fit the small local dive bar that I go to all the time. I putzed around my day trying to be productive. My cat kept trying to get me to lay down, and he actually does this thing where he will follow me around to the apartment and wait for me to sit on the couch or the bed and force himself onto my lap.
So that you can't move.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then put all of his body weight, all 23 pounds of him, onto my chest. I'm not a very large person, so that much determined cat energy and weight can be successful if he gets me at the right angle.
Yeah.
I went to bed early again, hoping that this would help. And look, I know that there could be a million far more reasonable explanations for what I'm about to say, and that me listening to the podcast, then taking the time to think about this story all over again is priming my subconscious to attribute things to paranormal activity. But the dream I had last night was different. I have never dreamed about that house. Ever. Not when I worked there, not after the experience. Never.
Stop.
Then last night, I have chills again.
Like I'm going to pee my pants. I want to pee my pants because
I want to.
Right now.
Let it loose. Convince your brain to just let it all go.
We'll need a new couch.
Sphincter who? Then last night, I had a dream that I was waking up in the guest bedroom. I woke up, I got dressed in my old uniform, and I felt completely comfortable. I don't lucid dream, so I wasn't questioning anything. Everything was normal. And I saw the daughter of the house talking to one of the maids, and then she waved at me. I passed by the son's room. He scowled and he shut the door. On the floor, right at the top of the staircase, I saw 3 small children playing with marbles, and I felt sad. In the dream, I don't know why, but here I will explain that these were the 3 children that had passed away under the age of 10. 5 and 10 during this time period were the ages that the parents had waited for, because if you could make it past then, you were much more likely to reach adulthood. I made it down the stairs and I turned into the parlor when I saw the matriarch of the house, and we will call her Lena. I sat with her on the couch, and suddenly a sewing basket appeared next to me. This all seemed completely normal to me in that moment. I picked up my project and I started stitching. And I don't know what I was stitching, thank fucking God, because if I had to tell you that I was stitching a Ouija pillow, then that just would have been too much for me.
Yeah.
As I stitched, Lena started talking to me. You wrote a letter the other day. Yes, I did, I said, because I knew that, yes, I did write a letter. Not properly, though. It was a strange letter, I suppose. You sent that one, Lena said. I did. You wrote another letter, but did not send it. No, I decided not to. You should send it, Lena said.
Shut up.
Why? I asked. You'll feel better. And then I woke up. I woke up with a headache still there and thinking, holy fucking shit, this was not a dream. I have never in my entire life been so certain that something was not a dream. So now I ask you, what is this? I spent one summer in their house as a fairly obnoxious teenager. I have no other relation to them. Did I get myself accidentally adopted by a ghost family? I will follow up to let you know if the headache goes away or not, and I'll send this story. So see you on the other side, possibly with an adopted ghost family as I reconsider numerous life events. From Marie. And then another email. Hello again. Yeah, the headache is gone. No clue what to do about this now, but I'm going to go take a nap and try not to think about this.
I can't even sit on the couch anymore. Are you kidding?
See you on the side once again, Marie. I can't wait to tell Ash and Elena about this.
I am speechless.
Isn't this wild?
This is wild.
If ever,
I'm curious
Marie
why.
cannot be a skeptic. Like, I know
No.
you can be skeptical, but like, oh my God, you're being slapped in the face with paranormal activity. Well, you're being slapped in the head with a headache.
Truly. Okay, here's my biggest question. I think, yes, Marie needed to send the email for their own sake, but it feels like there's a greater purpose. Like the ghosts of the house needed it shared for some reason. Like someone out there is going to be listening to this episode and something is going to happen. There's going to be some kismet, cosmic reaction. We're going to create, what's the bomb? The
atomic bomb.
We're going to create an atomic bomb of paranormal activity or something when this episode comes out.
Yeah, which is crazy to think about that. Like maybe this is not about Marie. It's not about us. It's not about maybe even this family, but it's somehow the energy of the universe and the way that the invisible string theory, the way that everyone's connected together. Like for some reason, this has to happen.
There's something happening inside my body right now as a reaction to the story. Like I know we say we get chills and our nipples get hard, but there is something like, especially behind my boobs. It's not even in my boobs. It's like there's just like a weird feeling that's stirring.
I got really hard nips multiple times during the story too. But it was like, was it full body chills or was there something?
It's almost like this like buzzing energy in my sacrum.
Oh man, I wish I could remember everything that I learned when I took my Reiki course. What does this mean?
Like
what is
intense radiating right here. Like so intense.
I'm like extra intrigued by you ever since we had the aura photo and you're about to open up psychically, like quite powerfully.
Like something.
I'm like waiting for something to happen. Like I'm like staring at you, waiting for you to like
waiting
that's
for my
so
atomic
Raven
bomb.
I'm waiting for your like eyes to glaze over and you just like suddenly have a vision.
So I was editing the bath game video that we put out as a special that's only on YouTube on Halloween. So it's already out if you want to watch it. But because I edited the audio for the super playlist thing that we did with Live, Laugh, Larceny, and That's Why We Drink, and everyone that did come out on the podcast feed. And so the audio I edited first, and then I overlaid it and then edited the video to match it.
Mhm.
But there's a period that I had to like, the video would have been black basically. So I copy and pasted this like one frame that I thought our eyes were open. So I didn't realize it was doing this. And I had already uploaded and everything.
Is it going to feel like one of those porcelain dolls, like when their eyes open or close?
Oh, it's terrifying. Oh, it's right here. Okay. Look at my eyes.
But today,
I accidentally did that.
Sabrina, that freaks me the fuck out.
Because look, I copy and pasted the same frame over and over, but I thought our eyes were open.
But you were starting to blink, so you're like,
so it looks like the porcelain.
You look like you're friggin' possessed.
Yeah.
Wait, that worked out beautifully.
Again, kismet.
Oh my God. Well,
I'm
girls
blown
will be
away.
girls.
Ghouls will be ghouls.
My God. Okay, well, Marie, we're never going to recover from this.
Never. I like I don't want to like do anything else anymore. I just want to sit here and be like, well, what's going to happen? I want to watch the world not burn. I want to watch the world come to fucking life.
Yeah.
Okay, well, this is like I don't know how to transition. This is a story from another listener. This is from our listener, Ainsley. And it is called My Dreams Can Predict Pregnancy, Death, and Flat Tires.
Oh, these are very important things.
Yes. Hey, supernatural besties. This isn't necessarily paranormal, but it's something I definitely want to share with you. First off, I love the podcast and have sent emails before about spooky life stuff, but this is a little different. And trigger warning, this does involve a miscarriage.
Okay, thank you.
A little backstory is that I had a miscarriage at the very beginning of October 2022. And I'm finally doing better with that situation and continue to heal from it. About like the second week of October, I had a dream about my coworker and friend. And this dream was basically that she was pregnant. It was a simple dream and it was just flashes of her life, but it felt more than a dream. And as some context, she had had a miscarriage a few years prior and had not had a lot of hope about having another child. So in my mind, I'm thinking I had just experienced a miscarriage and she had too. Maybe now I'm having a dream of her being pregnant. And I went to her about this dream and she laughed it off like, oh yeah, right. I'm not going to get pregnant. At the end of the month, I had to change jobs to make a little bit more money. So I didn't see her or talk to her as often. And then around the beginning of November, she texted me and she said, you were right. She was 5 weeks pregnant and said that her conception date would have been just a few days before my dream.
Oh my gosh.
I love that Nicole's like, this is not paranormal. This is paranormal.
This is paranormal. You're psychic. You have some mediumship about you.
100%. I felt amazed. I'd never really had something so solid happen like that. What ended up weirder than that was at my new job, I had a dream about another coworker also being pregnant. And I had only known these people like 3 weeks or so. I didn't go out and tell her when it happened because she didn't really know me and I didn't want to be like, hey, I had a dream about you being pregnant and be named that weirdo at work. So one day she left early in a panic. And that's when I finally told my other coworker who I had become pretty close to. I waited to tell her that I had this dream until she was ready. And finally, this woman who had run out, who I had had the dream about being pregnant, tells everyone that she's pregnant. She found out the same day I had that dream.
You know who this is reminding me of?
Who?
Sierra from Ladies and Tangents. Because this has happened to her like multiple times.
It's also weird because Jerry has guessed the gender correctly for every single person she's guessed.
Yeah, including me.
Yeah, including you. Like she was like the only one.
Sierra was also like, you're going to be pregnant soon. And then like, oh, it was the next week I got pregnant.
Yeah, wild.
Well, I was like literally sitting in a Dunkin' Donuts with them being like, I'm trying to get pregnant. Blah, blah, blah.
And then
Sierra was like, it's
and it literally happened that weekend, basically.
Yes.
Yeah. To me, it almost feels like a gift to know that information before other ones do. But my last dream that I had was not as good. My grandma on my dad's side had been in a home for some time, and unfortunately, I had a falling out with my dad, so I hadn't really talked to them for many years. But I ended up having a dream about my grandmother, seeing her in a bed looking kind of spaced out. There were people walking in and out of the room, and I finally looked at her and I asked, "Are you about to leave?" She just looked over to me and said, "Yeah, I'm tired. I gotta go."
Oh.
And with that, I knew that just in a few days, she would probably pass. A week and a half or so later, my sister on my dad's side texted me telling me that she had passed. I was not surprised because by now, with these dreams, they are normally correct. Anytime this has happened, I make sure to try to keep proof by texting my boyfriend and one of my sisters so that I have documentation and I'm not crazy. The last dream I had was kind of random, but I dreamt some random kids had stabbed my tires, leaving it flat. When I woke up, I didn't think anything of it. I went to my car. I started to defrost my windows, and I'd be damned. My passenger tire on my front side was completely flat. Didn't look like it had been stabbed by a bunch of kids, but it was completely flat. I have plenty of other stories. As always, stay spooky and see you on the other side, Ainsley. And then she sent an update saying I had another dream. I had another dream.
Are these dreams, or is Ainsley like in slumber, time traveling to the future?
Or like possessing these people real quick?
Yeah, I don't know.
I had another dream about another pregnancy, and I knew that it was either me or my coworker. 2 days later, I get a Snapchat from my coworker saying she was pregnant. I don't know how many more dreams I'll have like this, but they're so intriguing. I would like to start seeing it as a gift of some kind, and it seems like the kind of thing y'all would understand more than anyone else. See you on the other side, Ainsley.
This kind of feels practical magic to me in a way.
Yeah.
Like I'm almost picturing like I feel like
it's witchy.
It's very witchy.
Yeah.
I also am like picturing Ainsley just like at her kitchen table, and people from the neighborhood and from the town come
100%.
and like speak to her, and they hang out, and then Ainsley can be like, well, I'll try to dream about it and like basically
and
have
make
this
it
like
happen.
manifestation power.
It does feel like a gift because it's even with the experience of her grandmother passing away, despite them not being close or having as much connection, like it is this moment of being able to acknowledge someone's passing before they pass. And Ainsley didn't see her before she actually passed away, but she actually did because she saw her in a dream saying, yeah, I gotta go.
I know. Which is so fascinating too, because it makes me so curious about, well, like we've talked about this a bunch, like what even is time? Like how do we understand it, especially in relation to the paranormal world? But like for her grandmother, did her grandmother also have that sort of dream of saying goodbye? Or was this something that like in the astral form that she was able to go back? Or is it just like the way that the moment traveled in memory to her?
Or was it her grandmother? Because they say, you know, when people are closer to death, like they do kind of like slip in and out of their consciousness. Like what if her grandmother's spirit truly was traveling before she passed away and was saying goodbye to people?
That's so interesting.
I don't know.
I understand the villain in the OA, like trying to kind of kill people and bring them back to life to understand what's going on, because it is like it's just so. We got questions.
So many, but we're so curious also what's going to happen as this episode comes out, because I feel like
there's things.
Some energy happening here. I don't know. And it's also strange because this episode comes out in November, which is also like, you know, All Souls Day, the transition from October to November. There's some spiritual connectivity.
Yeah.
And I know we think October is the most spooky time of the year, but listen, we know ghosts are around all the time. And I think something cosmically is going to happen.
Right. Yeah, that is interesting. I'm so curious what like the astrology has predicted for November.
I don't know.
Tap, tap, tap.
Well, if you have paranormal stories to share with us, or if something wild happens in the world, or you think you know why all of this is happening, please email us at twogirlsoneghostpodcast@gmail.com. Come check us out on YouTube as well. Or if you would like episodes ad-free and 1 week early, we do post that on Patreon. We also have bonus content over there and Campfire Stories every Tuesday. It's just an amazing community, and you're all amazing.
We love you. Shout out to Jamie Ryan, our editor. We really love you.
Yeah, this episode was, yeah.
And we will see you on the other side.